Gee, how deadly was that, hey? I wonder how many people in the room heard the word deadly and all of a sudden thought to themselves, what's he talking about? For us, it just means fantastic, great, best thing ever. So you'll hear us say it all the time. Bunga nangai banam, bunga nangai nanam, unya yalburu, unya bunin, unya mananjali maragam, unya Shawn Andrews. G'day sisters, g'day brothers. I am happy, I am an echidna. I am a Mananjali man, and my name is Shawn Andrews. I honour my people and my ancestors by speaking in language, and today I honour them with what I'm going to share with you. I also want to thank the Musqueam, Sayatuv, the Squamish peoples of the coastal Salish. It has been a true honour to walk on your country. Seldom can people say that when they step off a plane and walk around that they feel as safe and as comfortable as I've felt being here. It is beautiful and it is an absolute honour to be here. Now, former National Chief Ave McCarty, I hope I said that correctly. He said it best when he said, not Indian act, act Indian. Now for me that would mean not Aboriginal act, act Aboriginal, which in some ways is a bit of a strange word, the word Aboriginal, because if you think about it, it means ab-original, so it means to take from the original, which seems strange because last time I checked, we are the original. Now, it's true. Give yourselves a clap for that, because we are the original. Now, the trick is, how do we put our culture first? How do we actually stay true to Indigenous Aboriginal people? See, for me, the best way for me to show you that I'm going to act Aboriginal is to stand here in front of you and do the most honest thing I can do, which is to share. Because that's what we do best. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to share with you some things that may come across as things that are really deep and hurtful. But if I don't show you who I am, then how can you ever know me? How can you ever share journey with me? And you all get that. So 3 years ago, I had the worst weekend of my life, almost to the day. A young man named Josh Hardy was killed with one punch while walking down the street in St Kilda in Melbourne. He was the best of us. He was a young Aboriginal man whose smile would brighten a room, and he was going to change the world. Now, I mentored Josh, and I lived a life a bit up and down, you see, because I don't know if you've played this game before, but we play this game of walking in two worlds. There's a white fella and a black fella way, as we say. And I tended to spend more time in the white fella ways. Now, when Josh was killed, I was also depressed, suffering anxiety, and had a crippling gambling addiction. The sort of a gambling addiction where it's far easier to lie to people about what you're doing than it is to tell the truth. And the weekend of his death, I spent the whole weekend completely writing myself off. I drank, I gambled, I didn't sleep. My girlfriend at the time, my now wife, she returned home after those 3 days, and we had 3 more days. I had 3 days off work and I couldn't sleep. And on the third night, she was laying there beside me and she rolled over and I'm sitting up, I'm sweating, I can't sleep. You've all most likely been anxious at some times, so you understand. And she goes, "What's wrong?" And I let it out. I told her. And she reached over and grabbed my hand, looked me in the eyes and said, "Honey, you have a problem. Problems can be fixed. Now go to sleep." Now, I did sleep and sleep very well. And that weekend, I went, and the mountain that had been speaking to me my whole life, I finally decided maybe I should listen to it. And I went up there with a men's group that I'd formed a year earlier. White fellas who had problems, who saw me as being somebody who could help fix those problems through connection and talking and storytelling and circle time and all these things we do very well. And I went out on that mountain and I sat there and I told them, I said, these are my problems. And, as good men should do, they hugged me, we cried, and we started to talk about it. And I sat there and thought, why is it that I'm like this? And I realised that it's because I don't pay enough attention to my connection. And we spoke about what connection is. And I started to realise something as I sat there on the mountain. An old memory came back to me. And it was my old people telling me that society grows strong when old people plant trees that they'll never sit in the shade of. And I thought, geez, got to do something here. Then it occurred to me, I know why I was angry. I knew why I was furious. And I was furious because I was sick of being told that Aboriginal people are the problem. We are the problem. Fix the Aboriginal people. Spend money on them. Make them more Western. Do this. More money in medicine. More money in education. And eventually, at the end of the day, they'll be fixed. Nah, brothers and sisters, we ain't the problem. They're the problem. They don't understand us. How can they? Their history books lie to them. The very country they stand on is stolen. Everything that they've been given has come from us. Now, it's not a blame thing, it's just the truth. But the problem with truthful conversation is that they hurt. And the reality is that we're not brave enough to have them. So I sat there and thought to myself, maybe I can do something about this. Maybe I can be the change. And I thought about our connection. Because it is the one thing that we often hear in Australia. People say Aboriginal people have a connection. They have a connection to land and self and community. But nobody actually really teaches anybody about that. I can take the majority of this room out now and we can go walk on country out the door here. And as we walk side by side, I'll know whether you're Aboriginal, whether you have Indigenous heritage or not. Because if you walk on country with me, connected in every step, then you are part of me. Just like you're part of those trees. You're part of that river. And Aboriginal people get that. Now, the other beautiful thing about our connection in our culture is that when we're connected, we can have difficult conversations. It's the reason why we have survived. Because we don't hold back. We sit there in our circles, we sit there at our tables, we tell our loved ones, the things that we need to. We don't hide from them. It's a beautiful gift of being an Indigenous person. And I'm sure if you all reflect now, you've got a grandmother or a grandfather, particularly a grandmother, because we all know that women are the strong ones. A grandmother who at some stage gave you a little clip around the ear and said, hey, you're not doing this, you need to do this. And then you listened and did it. Of course, grandmothers, they're connected. They don't hold back. And I thought to myself, what if we could change a nation? What if we could share our connection and our ways with non-Indigenous people? What if we flipped the script? Rather than focus on us all the time, let's focus on them. With $20 and no car, because I had a gambling addiction, so it's pretty hard to have any money or anything when you're spending all your money gambling. I started a business called Indigicate. I went out and said, let's educate the non-Indigenous people. Let's take them out in a canoe down a river, a slow journey. None of this white fella ways, which is, hey, let's conquer a mountain. No. Let's understand the mountain. Let's take our time. Let's go down the river and connect through circle times. Let's do what our old men and our old women did really, really well. Let's talk. Let's talk about self, community, and country. Let's cry. Let's hug. Let's do something that the non-Indigenous people are so desperate for that they spend millions and millions of dollars on it to increase their well-being. Let's communicate. We do it every day. How is it that an Aboriginal man from Mununjali country, which is Brisbane, can walk into Vancouver, coastal Salish people and all the beautiful Indigenous people here? Kia ora to my Maori friends. How is it that we can walk here side by side with love, and side by side together with all our generational trauma, all the massacres that occurred to our people, yet there is more love and kindness in this room than we will find in the rest of the entire city of Vancouver. It is because we are the original and we understand our connection. Someone who is not connected will walk into this room and they'll discriminate. Not by choice, but because they don't know who they are. I am a Buneen, I am an echidna. If an echidna walks through here, which would be a really impressive thing because they're native to Australia, all right? Believe me, that's the end of our conversation. I've got to go be with my brother. But I get that. So we started Indigicate. We went out, started taking kids out of the classroom, putting them onto country. It timed really well because in Australia, the national curriculum had just been launched, which said that there's an Indigenous cross-curriculum priority. So they had to teach our culture in school. Yet, unfortunately for the teachers, they didn't have the background to do it. I'm sure even if they're brilliant teachers, they could manage, but they didn't. So along comes Shawn with Indigicate, and they're like, great, if you can teach curriculum out there, take our kids out on the canoes, take them for their hikes, do that, and change the way it works. Now, one of the elders, he looked at me and said, you're going to be a busy boy. In 3 years, we grew from $20 and no car to 9 staff, 47 partner schools, and 35,000 students being taught. We are now developing an ecological approach to looking after our own kids. Because you're all aware, our kids are suffering too because they're lacking their own connection because we're not trusting in ourselves enough. We hold people accountable. We work with schools who actually want to be on the journey with us. Not come and tell us, not dictate to us. One of the favourite things I love doing is sitting at a table and saying to people, excuse me, you've employed the Indigenous person to come along, but you're not respecting the Indigenous voice. I keep saying, let's do a program like this, and you keep saying, no, mate, you don't understand, do it our way. Well, if you don't want me there, you don't want to walk side by side with me, don't have me. We also do this with corporates as well. You want to terrify a corporate? Ask them to take their shoes off and walk out on country. Look them straight in the eyes and say, hey, do you know any language? Get them to work a bit harder. Now, because I am a school teacher, we have to do something a little bit interactive. I'm going to ask you all to please stand up. Now, well done. So many people stood up so quietly. It's a fantastic honour. Thank you. Now, I want you to stay standing if you consider yourself to be connected to self, community, and country or land. Stay standing if you consider yourself to be connected to country, self, or land. Fantastic. These are my people. I want you to stay standing if you consider your organisation, workplace, to be an organisation that actively and honestly practices Indigenous culture and connection. Stay standing if you do that. I appreciate your honesty. Now, I want you to sit down if you or your organisation has ever taken money from a company or government who doesn't understand your connections or your ways. I want you to sit down. I don't know the thank you word in Māori, Chief, but if I did, I would. Thank you. 1 or 2 people who could stand. It's interesting, isn't it? I wonder if it's time for us to make them accountable. Our connection can change the world if we want it to. It's a task that we can no longer deny. It's above politics that are black and white. It's above clan disputes and infighting that see us fighting over corporate and government scraps just to survive. It is above the superstition of race, a concept that was implemented to divide us and conquer us. It's above all those things. Unless we share our connection, unless we bring the non-Indigenous people with us, and we do this together, the generations of our children to come will point to their blood on our hands. We need to be accountable for who we are. You are all strong. I am strong. The time has come. Put your connection through your business and let's walk on this path together. Thank you.